welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. In today's episode of what I did on my summer vacation, well, today I pruned, wired, and repotted this guy. It is a Ficus microcarpa once again, down here in Florida, sold as Green Island, but according to all the experts in the world, it's not really Green Island. Doesn't really matter to me. It is a Ficus microcarpa, that's good enough. Before I do get going here, I have heard from a few beginners that say, like, you're only, they've heard that you're only supposed to do the one insult a year or whatever. With tropical plants, when you live in the tropics, you can do almost anything. I mean, like, to a healthy plant. This plant is healthy. I've done nothing to it for at least 2 years. I mean, I've come in and tip pruned here and there. I think I even tip pruned it in one of my earlier videos I made that I just had titled like Ficus cuttings or something like that. But I can do almost anything I want to do to this thing. It'll be just fine, just as long as I'm doing proper stuff to it or whatever. I am going to, this has this sacrifice branch. I think it's doing a pretty good job of building some taper in the tree. Whole idea is you have a fatter trunk than the rest of it or whatever. So I am just going to leave that be. It's still in development. I'm going to prune and wire it first, and then I'm going to repot it. I'm either going to repot it right back in here, or I'm going to put it in here, just kind of depending on what the nabari looks like, how I feel. This is a little bit shallower and wider, and I was thinking maybe I could move it that way a little bit and get it to where these aerial roots hanging down have some place to land. I mean, they've got some place to land here, but a little more someplace to land. At one point, I was thinking I'd make a cascade out of it. I still might. I'm just really just kind of, still just exercising my options. So first, let's see. First thing, I got this branch here coming from underneath the trunk. At one point, I saw an aerial root drop right from the bottom of it, and I was hoping it would hit the ground. It did hit the ground, and it's in there. But it is coming right from the bottom. I'd like to simplify the tree just a little bit. And that's got to go. It's just in the wrong spot. Now hopefully that root that was falling from it will make it, but it's definitely got to go. Then up front here, you got these two here that have been going towards the light. This little weak guy here hanging down there. And so he'll have to go. And then, you guys probably couldn't see that, it was just about dead. I just knocked, there's a little branch here that, again, I think sometimes that the ficus just kind of give up on a branch. It was small and weak. I touched it, half of it fell off. That was all that was on the other half of it, so I just cut it the rest of the way off. And then, that really does simplify things quite a bit. I've got this branch with 2 secondary branches, this branch with 2 secondary branches. And then, remember, this will be gone one day. I guess I'll go ahead and keep this as a potential leader, even if I do make it a cascade. Usually you have a apex to it as well. But it's got, and again, probably going to be kind of hard for you guys to see there, but it's got its own branch there, and then these 2 little branches kind of coming off of it, but they're not really part of the same one. It's like they came out, they are in the same one, but like they kind of came out off to the side on their own. And so I'm going to go ahead and pop those 2 off, because when I do wire it up, I want to go ahead, because I plan on, this is a sacrifice, and I plan on keeping this. I don't want that to be all that straight, and perhaps if I wire that up as is, it'll get a little more secondary branching coming off of it. And that'll do for now, just for me to see what I'm doing when I'm wiring. Alright, so not much left. but what's left is pretty cool. Go ahead, just mainly get some movement in these guys. And probably a little twist up there too. And then maybe down just a little bit further. That should be good. I ended up wiring the main branch with this group and try to get some movement back over the main part of the tree. And then I just had these two off by themselves. They're a lot smaller than I really thought they were, but I can get a little wiggle in there. And just enough so they're not pointing straight up anymore. I left them plenty loose, give it some room to grow, try to leave it on there a little bit longer than I've been leaving somewhere. Alright, and here we go. If I remember correctly, at one point you can see, well I don't need that on there anymore. At one point you can kind of see where it was kind of dirty there. It's another reason for me to get a little tiny pressure washer, but at one point I noticed that it was resting on that, and I think I might have just brought it up out of the pot a little bit and put some better dirt on the bottom, but I'm not sure. And one of the reasons I'm repotting it today is that it's mostly mud. See. Of course, this is the problem with repotting and aerial roots that hit the ground and stay, is they're nearly impossible to work around. Now this is the part here where if you're not going to bare root it, I mean I took off the chunk off the bottom. It's just a big bulk of the soil. If you're not going to bare root it, and you just start trying to comb out the roots that are there, but these microcarpa, I notice, they just put out, it's kind of what you want, but it's kind of what you want when you're not using potting soil. I mean, it's actually the whole reason to use better soil is if I had potted this in bonsai substrate, I mean, technically I could pick it up and just kind of tease it a little bit and all the little substrate would just kind of fall right off and I'd be left with nothing but white healthy roots. Instead, I get a nice little mat of mud with some roots that are basically buried in the mud. All that time really only grew, and this was, I mean I've had this in the same pot for like a couple years. It was just a cutting. And really that's the only kind of serious taproot kind of thing it's got. The rest of it is actually pretty good. Alright, so I'm glad I did that. Went outside and just hit it with the garden hose. And sure enough, it has some really nice looking roots down there. That's the one I cut off. And I did decide to go with the training pot. Now, the pot I had it in, actually, that's one of the pots. It's a bulb pan that has like multiple drain holes in there, plenty enough to tie something down to or whatever, but the training pot is a little bit wider, and these training pots actually come with wire tie downs in there along with the mesh for the drain. So I'm going to kind of look at it here. I don't want any of the roots, and when I put it in, I don't want any of the roots to be crushed or anything like that. You do want it to try to spread out. So I am going to have to just a little bit more there. And that should be perfect right there. And so I'm going to put some, now ordinarily I wouldn't even, if this was the tree on its own, I probably wouldn't have even tied it in. But I got the big sacrifice branch there. I'd like to leave as many leaves on there as possible. I might take a few off because that may even help with just the weight of it right off the bat or whatever. But if I tie it in, I'll leave those leaves on there. I can get it right back out in the sun. My plant ER right now is kind of full. It's getting towards the end of the summer, and I've been doing a project almost every day. So I don't have much room left in the ER, and I would like to get it out in the sun just to get it kick-started, and also maybe plant it up just a little bit high in there so that it'll start working on some of that nabari and have a better looking root spread. Then, well, quite frankly, a lot of my other trees, I think a little handful of them I just kind of rushed a little much as far as the nabari goes. Got that root hanging right over the edge there. Take that guy out. But these two are together. I got them crisscrossed in here. So these two. And then these two. Now, I didn't tie them down tight at all, and you may have also noticed I went above the sacrifice here. Because this is just in development, I mean, I'm not trying to show this in a plastic training pot. I really just wanted to tie it in so I could get outside right away. I'm going to leave these up and visible, and in probably a month or so, I'll notice that it's solid in the pot again, and so I'll go ahead and just cut them off. I don't really want them cutting into any of the roots or anything like that. And that sacrifice branch comes right down to the base there. So I didn't want to try to slip it underneath or anything. Definitely sturdy enough in there just to let it get a hold and start growing again. Alright, and one last look at it there. Left the wires poking way up so I can see them. I don't forget about them. I really don't want them on there for a long time. Sacrifice branch should allow it to continue to build some taper. A little more room for those roots to drop in there now. Alright, and so here we are. 44 days later, I guess. It was July 22nd when I first did this video. And you can see it's recovered quite nicely. I was thinking about today trying to get in there and maybe taking off some of the growth straight down and everything, but there is, you know, you can see in that earlier video all those aerial roots and everything, they're in there. And all of these little, you know, this little growth, I mean, you know, it's a month and a half old or whatever, but it all is very delicate. So I'm just going to kind of let it kind of come on out. Got plenty of ramification in there. That should be really nice here, probably by about our winter. One thing I should remind sometimes is that, you know, I am in Florida and we're in the tropics, and these things grow almost year round. December and January is about the only time they don't really grow all that much, but I did wind up, you know, that aerial, or that, I'm sorry, the sacrifice branch was a lot bigger. I noticed, you know, like a week or so after I did that initial work that it was, you know, because I didn't cut it at all, it just kind of kept its steam going, and it was really kind of actually making it a little top heavy, and these weren't really kind of budding out as quick as usual. And so I cut it. I actually do think it kind of helped bring that, you know, make this back bud a little bit more. I do think it was kind of taking a lot of energy up there, but you can see it's recovering nicely. I did mention in the video I'd probably wait about a month and take these tie wires off. I'll probably leave them on a little while longer. It's good and pop bound in there. I could. It's good and secure, but I'll just leave them on there. I do have it out there in the full sun where the animals can get to it and everything. And along with the sacrifice branch, I do have it tied down there. I'll leave that on just a little while longer. Try to heal up that scar a little more. And speaking of that scar, I see it's healing nicely, and I would like to leave it as natural as possible. I don't want to see any kind of a... This was actually where it was ripped from something. Let's see if I can... And hopefully that'll kind of just help heal that up a little bit quicker. And of course, as that branch kind of thickens up the whole trunk there and everything, it should help hide it too.